very pleased to have Will Tongue joining us from Berries. Will's a farming consultant that we do quite a lot of work with. So, Will, if you go over there and grab a mic, please, then I will do this. So, a few minutes to talk about the top 25%. I just want one announcement before we do that. So, there's a QR code on every seat. And Matt, what do they do? Flash, take a photo.
Yeah. So, just with the camera, it will pick up the QR code, and then they'll offer a little prompt at the bottom to take through to the.
And is that to get the bottle of wine, or?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So we will be doing a survey later on. Okay. So this is Slido. It's called Slido. We did it last year. So if you take a photo of your QR code, we'll come on to that a bit later on. Sorry, Will. Wanted to say that. So I've asked Will to join us to talk about the top 25%. And there's a handout somewhere, an LFB benchmarking handout in a pile of papers, at the back. Okay, so we've been benchmarking since 1992. Well, I have been benchmarking since 1992. We used to benchmark the arable margin, but now we benchmark lower down after diversification on the business margin. So one point, Will, I wanted to ask you before we go into some of the details was the value of land, because a lot of the damage that you had at the bottom was based on land values. And so I think we did some work last year when we looked at the economic value of an acre of land, and it was, I think, to buy land, okay, to start off with, to start a business with arable farming, it was around about 3,500, if you remember.
Yeah, if you look at return on capital basis and the business being able to afford a reasonable amount of borrowing, it would be around that level, but obviously other things push it up to where the market is at whatever figure you want to put on it, 10, 11 grand.
Yeah, so the point I'm making is that tax is based on the value of land, but above its agricultural economic value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is not our fault, it's not farmers' fault. That's what makes the whole thing unfair. I think it was 3,500 an acre. This is acres, by the way, because I've gone through Brexit. So 3,500 an acre, and then it was 5,500 an acre for additional land you could afford to buy on a gross margin level. Yeah, so it's 3,500 to buy a farm, and to buy additional land, it's 5,500. That's with break even, but you've got to pay 10 to 12,000 for it, which is where the inheritance tax damage is done.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've gone off
tangent already.
Yeah. So we business margin is where we look. So what we're going to do is look at some numbers, Will, now, in terms of, this is the difference between the top 25 and the average in terms of output, which is output from arable rotation, the variable costs, and the gross margin difference. And so, and this is the 20 harvest, 21, 22, 23. So 22 harvest was a bit of a bumper. So the key point is the output is a lot higher based on variable costs of not much difference.
Yeah, there's quite a strong trend there, really, isn't there, of squeezing more from the same amount of variable cost.
Yeah.
And the question is how people manage it. Obviously, a certain amount of that will be soil type and what's been inherited by way of drainage and other infrastructure factors, but by and large, in my experience, it's about attention to detail. It's about being an arable specialist. This is largely arable statistics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is any livestock in your figures, is there?
Hardly any livestock, no, it's all arable. Yeah.
So the people that are paying attention to detail are often the ones going to meetings like this, engaging in knowledge transfer, engaging with the work of research bodies, HDB, and various other things to come and bring new ideas home and implement them, and just really focused on attention to detail, and the result there is clear.
What I promised not to say is that Will looks after several of our clients who are in the top 25%. Okay, which is why we've asked him to talk. Yeah, so I think that one of the key things is cash flow that we're finding, and there's two or three bank managers, at least three bank managers here. So, and cash flow, it seems to be a big problem, and the amount of cash that we need in farming these days. And so the scrutiny on variable costs is quite huge in terms of agronomists, but we do not have the scrutiny in machinery so much. And if you look down there, you can see the capital per acre. So it's around about £290 to £300 in variable costs, building up over time. Whereas the capital in machinery in our survey now is around about £370 an acre on the current value of machinery tied up.
Yeah, and I think it's good to point out, Gary, isn't it, that you mentioned the scrutiny and variable costs. Everyone doesn't blink at taking agronomy advice and challenging that and looking at the scientific research. In terms of machinery, there's often other decision-making factors that potentially wag the tail, don't they, Gary? So in terms of tax and investment allowances.
Sure. Yeah. So we have pre-year-end tax planning meetings, and us lot here, and what's on the agenda quite often is whether you're selling grain after the end of March or not. But also the key thing is, should we buy another tractor? Yeah, quite often, in which to add to that £370 per acre.
And you and I were talking the other day, weren't we, Gary, about the machinery investment sort of trap of getting on the annual investment treadmill, potentially buying a new tractor each year because you've used up all your tax allowances, and 1 year you likened it to eating a Mars bar and getting a sugar rush. Yeah. And then needing to eat another Mars bar the following year.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, it reduces your tax bill, but it takes all the cash out of the business at the same time and potentially ruins your cost structure.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, I'd forgotten about that point. Yeah. Eating chocolate, I said, gives you a big rush at the time because you get tax relief, 100% tax relief, but then it's you're living with even more machinery. We do have some machinery manufacturers here, I can see. Mr. Claydon and Mr. Claydon of Claydon Drills, who are listening intently. You may ask a question shortly if you wanted to. Okay, so I think we want to move on now, Will, to... so a lot of people, quite a few people here, take on additional land, and we've seen contract farming agreements very popular over the last 20 years, 10, 20 years or so. And it's quite interesting to see what the margin is on taking on additional land. And we have got this situation now with BPS in contract farming agreements. So harvest 23, 22 and 21, we've got up there. And so what we've done is looked at in the average group, the margin on that additional land. So it's basically the income from that contract farming area, but you've got your labour and machinery, just the labour and machinery spread out across your own farm and that. So you've actually extended your fixed costs in terms of labour and machinery. And you can see there in 21 minus 36, minus 1 in 22. Key point here is that 22 harvest bonus comes into 23, because quite often in contract farming agreements the bonus is afterwards. So we can see, but the top 25 have got some, and this is obviously the 22 bonus coming in here, the 22 bonus from that one coming into this one. Okay, so but a bit worrying. So we were talking the other day about the BPS is normally in contract farming agreements, and where are they heading at the moment?
Well, obviously we know what's happening with BPS with the budget, but just to go back a stage on terms of the making a return out of contract farming, the difficulty again, it's like another treadmill, but it's easy to get on, is carrying on contract farming when it's not making any money, not understanding your own costs and whether you are making money out of it and whether you're not. And then I don't want to steal Kate's thunder in terms of our next speaker, but it's a very difficult position to reverse out of. If you're for one farming 3,000 acres and got the shiny kit and the prestige that goes with it and the position and the shooting invites, to actually accept and realise that the 3,000 acres isn't making any money and to back out of that position and become perhaps a smaller business that's concentrating harder and now is in the top 25% is takes some doing, and it's a challenge. Going back to your specific question on contract farming, I'm quite strongly of the opinion that contract farming agreements need quite a good shake-up. The BPS element needs to be coming out of farmers' returns. Landowners in contract farming agreements are not going to thank me for this, but the reality is that arable farming is in a phase of delivering less income to the landowner, and the contractor is there to provide a service and needs to be paid properly and remunerated fairly for what he's doing, the same way that the chemical supplier is and the fertiliser supplier and everybody else in the chain. Yes, the profit share is still a sensible arrangement because it incentivises performance, but it needs to be structured correctly.
And the problem is, I think, BPS has come down in the deal, but labour and machinery with the contract has gone up.
Absolutely.
So the break-even contracting has been 120, then it came 130, and it's now around 170, I guess. To break even as a contracting, as a stubble to stubble, if you like, which is what the contractor wants, and then the BPS has dropped as well. So one's gone up and the other's come down, and that's where all the pressure is in contract farming agreements.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, good. Okay. So it's very, very much doom and gloom, and so moving on to profit excluding BPS. If you take out BPS from the profitability, you can see. And I've got the bottom 25% here as well, where profitability has actually crashed. The average, you can see, 188. The 22 harvest was a bonus, as we said, and then the average is down to 38 now. And this is profit before rent and finance, and it's before drawings, and it's before bank loan, capital repayments, etc., etc. So there's more to come out of this as well. Quite a lot of doom and gloom around at the moment, I'm sorry to say, in terms of arable farming. Mainly, what we find, I've been finding, or we've been finding, is the requirement for cash, extra overdraft to fund the 25 harvest. And I'm sure the bank managers here would agree that they've actually been giving loads and loads of money out and extending overdrafts all over the place. I hope. I see some shaking heads, but yeah, okay. So and then we discussed the contract farming agreement. So just to one of the key differences to the bottom line, Will, is rental income, and not everybody can do this, but we have got. You can see a huge difference there between the top 25 and the average. Top 25, the top line there, the last three years.
Yeah, and going back over the years that you've done these talks on your figures, Gary, I think probably 10 years ago or more, you presented, in more detail the breakdown of the figures, and you used to argue that diversification was a bad thing and it was distraction.
I did.
But actually, it comes down to the nature of the diversification, does it? Because obviously, a rental income is a passive type of income stream. You haven't got to actively manage it. It's not taking up huge amounts of time, and there's plenty of demand in this part of the world. I think most of my clients have a continual stream of prospective tenants knocking on their doors looking for premises, so engage with it. There will only be more, I think, with the developments going on with Oxcam Arc and East West Rail. And
shipping containers, become a shipping container manufacturer, Claydon's. The next stage, okay? I won't send you a bill for that bit of advice. But yeah, unfortunately, got a very good memory, Will. So yes, it was 10 years ago, whatever, when I said, and the figures were showing it. The top 25 were the least number of crops and the least number of diversification in the past, in 10 to 15 years ago, and it's just completely swung round.
Yeah, the top 25 were probably 50% wheat and 50% rape. But
Sorry?
The top 25 were probably 50% wheat and 50% rape. But
yes, absolutely simple, focused on the crop, no diversification, etc. And that's it was such a simple recipe. Okay, so we need to start moving on. So what's the future? This is all doom and gloom. So I just wanted to finish up with a slide. And I think to summarise where we are at this stage, so the three key points I've got written down here, Will, is economic yield, which is another way of saying gross margin, I guess, which is economic yield, not high yield, but the most economic yield, machinery, management and scrutiny. And the other point I wanted to say is family harmony, because we find that dysfunctional families lose money. Okay, so it's investing time in the family is key, which links to hopefully the next speaker to a certain extent. We need family harmony. So economic yield, machinery, and family harmony are the three key points I've written down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would probably echo the third one most of all, actually, because if there isn't family harmony, decisions don't get made, the business stagnates, and there's a state of inertia, and things don't happen. So family harmony is vital.
Yeah, good. Okay, so the future, and this is the answer. This is my pet subject. So, rugby balls, okay? 6 nations, but don't mention Wales. Well, on the comeback, actually. Yeah. Wales, aren't they, Luke? No?
Optimistic.
I come from Wales, so so I think this is the future, and we have got a couple of people in here who are in this sort of structure, and you might want to make a comment. I don't know. So this is basically a machinery syndicate, 4 farmers, and that's their percentage of their acres of land. In the percentage there, they all add up to 100, I hope. And so it's a separate business, LLP, not a limited company for tax reasons, but then to stop those 4 arguing over where the combine is or where the drill is, we put a cropping share farming agreement into, and share farming, Julie, as you know, I'm quite keen on share farming. So, but linking that share farming to a machinery syndicate gives a very good balance, I think. So, as opposed to contract farming, which is not sharing costs, in my opinion, is not a joint venture, this is actually sharing costs. So, I think for many farmers, this structure is the way forward. Agree?
I do agree, but if you look at the reasons why it works, actually, it doesn't stop the top 25% from being able to do it on their own account, does it? Because the reason it works is that there is scrutiny of costs, there is clear decision-making on machinery purchases that is challenged and accountable and hasn't got any kind of luxurious factor or tax tail wagging it, and there's very often an arable specialist managing it. So from an individual business's point of view, it's a question of recognising whether you can achieve that on your own, whether you have those skills, the right people involved, or whether you need to get into that sort of structure in order to have that discipline to achieve it. But it gets you to the same place.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so if you're a 2,000 acre or 1,500 acre farmer, you could do all this on your own.
Absolutely.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
But you have to have a discipline in business management and challenging decisions to be able to do it.
The only difference, in linking it to the next speakers as well, this helps well-being, I find. So if you're 1,500 acres on your own and fairly lean, okay, you're on that tractor for many hours on your own. Whereas if with this, you've got four families, if you like, all working in harmony together, which helps as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, brings a bit of fun back into the job potentially.
Yeah, it brings the fun back into it. Yeah, which is what we've said, Anthony. I don't know if you want to say anything. Anthony Wiseman from AWT is sitting there.
It works really well. We've done it for
5 years. Yeah.
There's still challenges. There's still times where you want to fall out with each other. But you have to look at the bigger picture. It's very difficult trying to incorporate contract farming agreements within a share farming agreement. If one partner's got that within their own business setup. But it's still 25 years on. It's still probably too novel for a lot of farmers.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, and I've got 2 or 3 that from 25 years. You were one of the first, but I've got others as well that started in 25 years ago, still going. Yeah. Good. Okay. Any questions for Will?
Hi, Will. Going into a contract farming agreement, and I'm having a chat with the landlord, and they keep mentioning marginal costs. for my contracting fee. Is this just them talking rubbish?
Not completely. Obviously,
What's wrong with the true cost?
Well, marginal costs are relevant for you because they enable you to make a bit more money out of it. But I think from your overall business point of view, everything wants to operate on the average cost basis, doesn't it? And the landowner you're working for needs to be paying the average cost. The benefit between average and marginal is for you to gain.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
And the problem with that is marginal costs tend to creep to be actual costs. So you start off with marginal costs, okay, spreading your overheads, okay, and which is whoopee, but then you tend to farm to that area. So therefore the margin.
The longer the time,
Yeah.
the more actual they become.
Yeah, the more absolutely. So marginal costs work in the first year, and then this is why we have people jumping into contract farming agreements, and then probably need another tractor, or et cetera, et cetera. So that's marginal is a short term, like eating chocolate again. Is a short term fix. Okay, Julie. Will,
can I ask you about that frightening figure you gave about the economic value?
I think Gary gave you that, but yeah.
Okay, whoever will take responsibility for it. But the economic value for an arable acre,
yes.
for acre for arable use.
Yes,
yeah? Okay.
correct.
And so we're paying 9, 10, 11 potentially, and the economic value, if it's farmed as arable, is 3 and 3.25, 3,250, something like that.
Something like that.
You said, yeah.
Yeah.
So are we collectively mad then? Is this to be paying that figure? Or is there something else in, hope value, diversification, etc.? I mean, what? It sounds mad.
Yes, and we've got a couple of land agents in the room as well. So what drives that value? It's rollover. So people, roll over, and we tend to be fixed at that value of 10 to 12,000 now. So it's other factors, and I think the other point is, I say this quite often. I've been saying it quite often recently on this point, is that we're a very small island with a huge population increasing, but let's not go there. A very small island with a lot of people, and most of our land is real estate. Whereas I worked in Australia and New Zealand, and the economic value there is the economic value, because there's so much land and less people. We've got too many people on a small island, I think. So it's all real estate. So everybody who gets lucky enough to get 2 or 3 million together wants to buy a piece of England, and that's what they want to pay for it. Yeah, and we're stuck. We're probably mad, but give us the answer. Yeah, and it's so unfair that we're producing food, and we need land to produce food, and we have to have that high value land, and then we get taxed on it. But yeah, that's back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's another whole subject, isn't it? But the problem is there are all sorts of different uses for land, isn't it? Whether it's a solar developer or a BNG buyer, sure, or a equestrian. Yeah, there's a myriad of uses, and that's why I think even despite the changes in the inheritance tax, I'm not the land agent here, and anybody else is welcome to pitch in, but I don't see land prices going down, particularly as a result of the autumn budget.
Thank you very much, Will. Okay, and thank you. That's the end of that session.